Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon, and today we're going to be talking about how we got Grandmaster with a 64.5% win rate on jungle, playing only solo queue. So here are my stats, and then here is the champions for this season, mostly that we played. You can see a lot of Vi, Wukong, and Warwick especially. So we're going to get right into the final game that got me GM and talk about how I was able to get there. Okay, so getting right into this game, we end up wanting to path towards the Mordekaiser Garen lane, mostly due to the fact that Jinx Nami really can't do that much early on in the game. And Zyra, Caitlyn are probably going to have prio. The Caitlyn has cleanse, and it's just going to be really hard to gank them in general. Whereas with the Mordekaiser and Garen, I don't necessarily expect to be able to kill, but I do expect Mordekaiser to get them closer to half-ish health, and then have a chance to get something done, or at least have prio there. That type of thing. So that's kind of why I end up going for this pathing. Though in this situation, I could see it to be reasonable to go for the Jinx and Nami, but again, I just don't think there's going to be much happening in that lane. It's more likely that the melee matchup ends up having something happen. And we're just going to be going through kind of the entire game here, talking about my thought process and what I kind of did to climb in general as well. Generally speaking, some of the main things that helped me climb early is just doing what I just basically told you guys, which is pathing towards the more volatile lane, or pathing towards the lane I think is easier to gank, and actually thinking about my pathing from level 1. I start on the side of the map that is opposite to the side that I want to gank first. So again, because I want to gank Mordekaiser and Garen, I start opposite side of them so that I can be there. So this is like the first general early game planning thing that has really helped me to get decent leads. And then in this situation, you see I'm paying good attention to the lane, trying to see if he does look gankable, seeing if I can do anything. And obviously, if nothing really shows up, I'm just going to go for a scuttle. I can take a simple recall, and I can go back to the top side. So here, the Garen ends up being kind of silly. He ends up giving us an opportunity to blow his flash here when my Mordekaiser follows up. And so now we know he has no flash, and he's about half health. So all we do here is we try to get level 5, and then we chase down the Garen. I skipped a little too far, but basically then we just chase down the Garen because he does overextend without a flash, which is very, very silly of him, and does give us a good opportunity to get a kill here, which is exactly what we do. Another important thing to understand as the jungler that has allowed me to climb pretty effectively has just been taking plates after a kill works out. So in this situation, Echo I know is topside, who is their jungler. We just got a kill, so I'm going to stick around and I'm going to get a plate or two, right? Like, you always want to stick around and get these plates, get these advantages from the turret plates and whatnot after kills work out. You don't just want to leave immediately after a gank works. So we get that additional 150 gold to ourselves and 150 gold to Mordekaiser, which helps us snowball a bit. And you're going to see the game is not going to go super well for the rest of my map. And because of that, we're going to do another concept that we've done a lot to climb, which is playing around our strong point. So in this situation, the only point that we have that really is doing well is the Mordekaiser. And so we realize that, and we decide that I'm just going to simply look to clear my entire blue side and then go right back to the red side. So let's say that my dual lane we're doing really well. I might have done my 3 blue side camps and then looked for a gank on them. But because they're not doing super well, it makes more sense to play more around the Mordekaiser. Now in this case, the Echo ends up just going forward, so I'm like, hey, let me try to kill him. Pretty bad choice by me, honestly, to ult there. I think trading was fine, but ulting was just way too much, and then leads to my Lux dying. So greedy play by me, and because we do make this mistake, we now really have to hard play into Mordekaiser, because now also our mid laner, our mid laner he'd already been killed once, but now he's like really far behind, so it's going to be very, very hard at this point to really do much unless we play around this strength, and that's really the main thing that we're kind of looking for. We see that Mordekaiser ulted, but we think probably can't follow up on that, so I decided to just get my red buff first and then see if I can follow after if I need to, or look for a dive or something like that. He nearly dies, and so again, what can we do? We can just take advantage of getting the turret due to the fact that Garen is quite low. In this case, we actually blow his flash and are able to kill him in the end, so we got our red buff and we ended up getting the kill out of it. Kind of the best of both worlds. I have a couple kills on myself, and now we can get a bunch of turret plates again, taking advantage of those turret plates. So in this case, I'm opposite side of the enemy jungle. They started on the other side. I can't really counter gank them that well. If their ganks work like they did here and they get first turret, I can't control that. All I can do is get as much as I can on the other side of the map. Because there's an entirely realistic world where my teammates didn't die really fast, didn't lose lane, didn't die to the ganks, and then we have a huge advantage here. But in this case, we're not down that much in terms of bot lane versus topside lead. The main problem is that mid then also fell behind, again, partially due to my mistake, and because of that, we are behind quite a bit of gold. So because we realize this, we know the main thing that we have to look for, once again, is playing around that Mordekaiser as much as possible. So I end up, once again, clearing my blue side really quickly, And then in this case, again, we see an angle. Like, I'm not going to never go on fights that if I see an angle. I thought, hey, I can probably briefly kill here. Now, again, if we look at this in hindsight, the enemy jungler we should have known is going to go to blue side because that's what camps he had up, since he's opposite side of me, and I hadn't even fully cleared my blue buff yet. So I should have expected the fact that their jungler would have been there, and I shouldn't have taken that ult. So again, multiple mistakes by me in the early game. Not perfectly played, but even despite that, I am quite strong gold-wise because of the fact that we played well around the Mordekaiser. And this is the concept that, again, has allowed me to climb really well. My win rate ended up being 64.5, which is higher than, I think, some of my other accounts, but it is lower than my ADC account. I honestly chalk that up to volatility. I don't think that ADC is actually easier to climb on in solo queue compared to jungle. But I do think, you know, again, volatility, you're not going to have the same win rate if you do the same thing, you know, 10 times or 100 times in a row. Like, sometimes you get unlucky, you get more lucky on one account, that type of thing. In this case, though, we end up not really contesting anything and just getting the wave because we know we're behind too much to really contest. I decided the only way I would play is if I contested Herald with the Mordekaiser, but then the Mordekaiser rotated and the enemy contested Herald, so we didn't really want to fight that. I'm fine with just farming. So now what I'm looking for basically at this point in the game is just trade on the opposite side of the map, don't fight the enemy a lot, and just get myself as much gold as possible so that I am strong enough to possibly carry and to be fed enough. Now, luckily, my teammate steals Dragon, so shout out to him for that. But we don't need to overforce objectives because, again, a lot of people, and you can see I have the second most gold in the game at this point, but a lot of people, if something goes bad early game, they're still going to try to contest an objective, they're going to try to fight, they're going to try to do all these things. It's not very useful. What you prefer to do as a jungler especially is just get as much gold on other parts of the map as the enemy are overextending. So again, here, all of my teammates are grouping mid, enemy, a bunch of them are grouping mid, fighting, whatever. I'm just going to go get side lane gold. So I'm going to get this wave, I'm going to get the next wave, and I believe I go on the turret, and I start to hit the turret. So now my goal is to try to get the turret. Even if I die, I don't mind too much because we're down a decent amount of gold. So I can take a bit of a risk in terms of trying to get this turret. In this case, we see Caitlyn, so now we are like, okay, we'll get out. And then I'm able to ult on the Zyra because my teammate TP's here. And so I believe we do get the kill. We do get the kill. And then my teammate ulted Caitlyn, and I believe we're able to kill Caitlyn afterwards, if I'm not mistaken. We are, but I end up dying to the turret. So again, here, all I did was I made plays on the opposite side of the map, and then my strong person, who was the Mordekaiser, ended up TPing to me, so I took advantage of that, and ended up getting a couple kills there. So once again, we're just following this concept of trading on the opposite side of the map, of the enemy jungler, that is, opposite side of the enemy jungler, and just not doing too much, focusing more on farming, and just trying to scale up, hope that our gold is good enough that we can at least do something. And because of that, again, I have nearly the most gold in the game. Once again, what do? Enemy jungler showed going around top side, so I go bottom side and I farm some bottom side waves. My teammates are overgrouping really hard, as you can see. Like, my duo lane and my mid laner are constantly just sitting mid lane, and so I just take advantage of this by getting all their waves. And like, obviously, you know, if they were covering those waves, I wouldn't need to take them all, but I don't mind taking them because, again, I'm relying on myself to carry anyways. It's solo queue, it's kind of how it goes. And so once again, we're just trying to get as much gold as we can on ourselves. I don't really mind at all. And if I can find a pick, I'll try, because again, I see a lot of the enemy top side. In this case, we realize we can't really do much. So what do? I go and I farm another top lane wave. Just constantly looking for this gold everywhere I can. Like, you can see how I'm going from one side of the map to get a wave to the other, to farming my camps, to just everything I can do. And that's because, again, we're not strong enough to fight. We're still not strong enough to fight, and we're not going to be strong enough to fight for quite a while unless we're able to find some type of pick on the enemy. So when it comes to these types of situations, you do have to find the timer where you can actually take a fight. Usually the times where you're going to want to look to take fights is going to be when you can find some type of pick on a fed carry of the enemy. In this case, I end up just trying to pick her on side lane again because I knew the enemy weren't fully there, so I was thinking like, oh, maybe I can go and try to pick her. Now in this case, I do get a bit greedy and I end up having the flash, but I blow Zyra flash, Zyra ultimate, and Yasuo flash. So again, I'm not even mad about that. Like, that's a perfectly fine thing to do. And again, we did it because we knew multiple of the enemies showed elsewhere. And that's mainly what we're looking for. We're taking advantage of numbers, or taking advantage of the fact that I'm stronger than most of the enemy do all the farming. So where do you see me go again? You see me go right to the bottom lane, because that's where the gold is. That's where a wave's pushing in. All I'm concerned with. I'm not concerned with fighting the enemy. And then the next thing I'm concerned with is this timer, which we've spoken about in previous videos, which is 11 minutes. At 11 minutes, the Baron and the Dragon will usually spawn at very, very similar times. And when those things spawn, you want to try to sneak the Baron and let the enemy get the Dragon. Regardless, you just want to hover the Baron. The Baron is really what matters. Don't care about the Dragon, especially when you're behind. And because of that, We're just going to try to bait the enemy, hope that they don't realize that we're doing it. And if they do realize it, we're just going to hover it and hope we can get a pick, or, you know, deny the enemy or just stall or whatever. Because we don't care about this dragon. It's just a random second dragon. It doesn't do anything for us. But that Baron could help us, you know, start our comeback. So that's what we're looking for. And again, we can see I have the most gold in the game, by the way. At this point, I have over 10,000. I don't think anyone else on the enemy team has 10,000. So I am extremely fed. And once again, we're just stalling. We know our Mordekaiser is not here. Not trying to fully engage or fight the enemy. Just stalling around the Baron as my Mordekaiser gets free push, gets free gold, free farm, everything like that. And once again, we're just hovering here. Not trying to overfight, not trying to overforce. And then if we see the enemy go to the objective like they did here, we're going to try to force the Baron. Now in this case, it ends up being pretty messy because the Echo shows. And so I try to kill the Echo here is kind of my goal. And then if my teammates did stick on it, we might have been able to do it. But instead we just end up having to kind of fight here. So even though it's not, you know, an ideal situation, the result's not perfect, you can see the concept that we're trying to apply, which is making sure the enemy have to extend resources elsewhere, which in this case they put people to the dragon, and then we take those fights once that happens, rather than trying to, you know, fight 5v5, because again, we're behind, still behind, and if I can find a pick because of the fact that I'm fed, I'll look for it, but I'm not going to try to overforce too much. And that's really overall what we're doing, what has allowed us to currently be decently strong. And now at this point, the enemy, you can see they're kind of low. Echo doesn't have ult, and there's a very realistic chance that we could win this fight. Now, I don't even remember what happens. I won't lie here. We shall see. But I do know this game definitely did not go super well, even to this point. So you can see it's a very messy thing. In this case, we end up, it's not a bad outcome. It's not the best outcome. It's kind of, I think we end up killing. You can see it's like 4 for 4. You know, we're pretty fine with it. I get a lot of gold on myself. You can see I'm 11.5k gold. Nobody in the entire game has 10k. So I'm over 1.5k gold ahead of anyone in this entire game, and my team is down 4k gold. So like, even despite you know, all the negative things going on, you can see I've participated in every kill except for one, and overall have again at least made the game playable. Still going to be very hard, and when it comes to the fights, you're going to see future mistakes. But what we should be doing in these fights, finding the enemy who are fed, who are killable, and going for them. So in this case, Echo is not very killable because of his ultimate, so I shouldn't really target him. I should probably target Yasuo, who's another fed person who is killable because he doesn't have an ultimate that, you know, reverts him back to full HP. And so we should really be trying to blow him up in a lot of fights and focusing on that in terms of target priority. Now, I believe you're going to see me make some mistakes at certain points, but at this point, that's kind of what we're looking for, is try to pick off one of these fed assassins. I get a bit too greedy, I think, on Echo a couple times, as I said, but overall, you know, the concept is the same. And then at this point, we're just trying to squeeze some gold out of our blue buff, but we want to mainly hover the Baron side still because the Baron is up. So you can see I didn't farm the rest of my blue side, just the blue buff, because I want my mana. But overall, we're just kind of hovering here, trying to see if we can get a pick, trying to see if we can sneak a Baron if the enemy overforce. So for example, they showed 3 people on top side, so we're going to try to force this now. And then because the enemy show here, we end up looking for the fight due to the fact that they showed. But again, 3 of the enemies show on the other side of the map. Of course, I'm going to try to go force a fight or force a Baron or do something. Now, in this case, my team is so far behind that they all died. Honestly, don't know how everyone died there, but they did. And then I believe I try to force here, and I do die. Yeah, we kill the Echo, but we do die. And so you can see, again, like, still not a great situation, but that was a completely realistic chance for us to come back in the game. Many of the enemy are forcing a fight on top side as Baron's up. We force the Baron, we use that as a reason to fight. And then we find a good ultimate onto Echo Yasuo. Just didn't end up working out in terms of the result. But we're not only focused on results. Again, also focused on just if our choices make sense and how they're going to work out in the long run over the course of many, many games, not just one individual game. And just because I'm so farmed as well, I have more gold than anyone again, there's always a chance the enemy throw into me. I get a pick on someone who's really fed since I can fight anyone because of how strong I am, and then we win off that. And that's pretty much what we're looking for. We're looking for that one pick that also gets the Jinx to reset, and then, you know, kind of snowballs the game from there. But either way, it's quite hard, so I believe we can't even contest this dragon, which will be soul for the enemy. But yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I assume we don't contest. You know, maybe my teammates do, but I don't think I would. Unless we're able to find a pick on the enemy or something like that, which you could kind of see I'm looking for that random pick on Yasuo to see if he goes for it. And then here we go into the Zyra, and then we go on Caitlyn. So we're basically just forcing to look for picks, forcing out a lot of cooldowns of the enemy. Mordekaiser ends up getting 1 kill. And so yeah, we're kind of just hovering here, seeing if the enemy do make any mistakes because of how fed I am. But you can see I'm being pretty patient too. I'm not just instantly dashing in. I'm waiting for the right moment until someone overextends, then I'm backing off. I'm playing this fight slow because we know, again, I have to get a lot of damage off as my, as the Vi in order to actually win due to the fact that my team is so far behind. And then we realize, again, they're going dragon. We didn't get enough out of that fight. We can't fight it. We're just going to continue to farm opposite side of the map, just constantly being patient, getting myself to my 4th item. And so once again, I'm hitting an insane power spike. Super, super strong here. So even if the enemy, or even if my teammates rather, make a lot of mistakes, there's just always that chance, which is all we're looking for. So again, a very simple concept, but this is one that a lot of people don't follow. They always get very impatient when their teammates are kind of, playing poorly. And then again, here, I look for that one opportunity to find a pick onto someone because the Yasuo is overextending. And you can see how insane my damage is that I'm able to stall there, which is, again, just the entire reason for all this farm, for everything. And due to that insane Lux ultimate there, we're able to get decent value. But even here, I don't think it's that, the fight doesn't work out that well, but it's not bad. Once again, able to kill Echo here. I think we kill Garen afterwards. We do. And so, yeah, in this case, actually, we do get the team wipe, so it is quite a nice fight. If you can't tell, I haven't watched this game back. I got to go to work soon, so I don't have a lot of time to record this video. But that's basically what we were waiting for. We got that pick onto the Yasuo because he overextended and because I farmed well enough to be, fed enough to kill him. And then because they obviously had the numbers disadvantage and they kept fighting, we were able to win the fight, even if it was messy due to the fact that we're kind of behind in gold. And that's the one time that we get a bunch of gold off all these turrets, and now all of a sudden the comeback is entirely realistic. Whereas before it looked like, there was no way we were going to win the game. And so now we don't get too over, aggressive. We just make sure we back off after we get the inhib. We want to make sure we reset and spend our gold, because that's another concept that I'm going to make a video on soon, is the concept of tempo. I'll make it probably in a top lane video. But a lot of people really don't understand recall timers. In this case, for example, the enemy were respawning, in about 10 seconds, and the Baron was about to spawn. If we didn't recall fast enough, the enemy could have taken advantage and forced Baron. So we needed to make sure we recalled fast enough. Otherwise, we could have gotten screwed there. A lot of people make that mistake. They don't recall. They try to over push their leads, and then they get, kind of screwed over and ended up losing a game that otherwise would have been a win. And so now, once again, we're in the fights. We're just looking for a pick on someone. We saw that Yasuo recalled, and because Yasuo recalled, I'm keen on starting a fight if I can possibly find an engage on someone. But in this case, again, we kind of have to be a bit patient. Yasuo is going to come back, and so now we're just like, okay, can we target Yasuo, or can we target this guy in the Mordekaiser ultimate? End up killing the guy in the Mordekaiser ultimate, the Garen. And now, once again, we want to look to force a fight, because they have one less member than us, but we have to just be patient. We have to kind of use the Baron as a bit of a bait. And then here is when we end up one-shotting the Echo with the ultimate so that he can't ult. We end up getting Yasuo afterwards, I believe. This champion is pretty slippery, so maybe we kill him. I think we do. We do eventually kill him. But yeah, that was that was scary. Either way, we're able to get the Baron now that most of the enemy have died. I think I might have to smite this thing. I don't know. I think I live. I think my Lux dies. Yeah, my Lux did die to the Baron. Little unlucky there. But I think we still get it, and then we're able to force a fight afterwards because the enemy are really low, so they can't actually do anything. I don't know, Caitlyn. I don't know what Caitlyn thought she was gonna do. She wanted to be the hero. She was not a hero. And so now, again, thank you, Caitlyn. If Caitlyn didn't die there, it could have been a little scary because we would have been in a 5v4. We'd have had to kind of use Baron to stall. But instead, basically, all we want to do here is use the Elder as an excuse to fight. And I assume he was going to be camping here because usually as a jungler, you're camping there to get a steal. And so we got a lot of poke on the Echo initially. And you can see, my team's trying to enforce the Elder, but we're strong at this point. We're winning. I want to force a fight. I don't just want to force a random Elder flip. And then I see that my Mordekaiser ulted the Echo. So because my Mordekaiser now ulted the Echo, now I'm okay with flipping. And so that's kind of the difference is, I had to wait until that happened before I actually wanted to flip. The objective, because again, if their jungler's dead, then it's obviously fine. And now we just go forward with our Elder and we do Elder Dragon things on the enemy. Kill the Echo, kill the Zyra, get them all. I think I dive onto the Caitlyn right after. And again, I'm full build, they can't kill me. I'm insanely fed. Maybe I die actually. Maybe I spoke too soon. I don't remember. Yeah, no, I spoke too soon. I got cocky. Even though that game already happened, I forgot it. Anyways. This is the game that got us Grandmaster. I just wanted to show you guys some of the main concepts that allowed us to climb, and I think this game did a good job of doing so. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. We're Grandmaster on 3 accounts right now, ADC, support, and jungle. My Baron lane account's 26 marks, and my mid lane's 24, so we're all pretty close to Grandmaster on them. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. See you later.